Alrighty, so next thing on the list is the grocery store. So once you've planned out your meals for the week, you have your all your meals laid out. You should make a grocery list before you go to the grocery store, because if you just go to the grocery store and say, oh, I'm going to go and just get a few groceries, and although you may buy healthy things, you're more than likely going to overspend because you're going to buy stuff that you don't need. You're going to overbuy because things look good and you can't eat, 3 bags of apples and 2 bags of pears and X, Y, and Z. So make a list of exactly what you need. It's going to help keep you on track with when you're in the grocery store to buy only what you need, and also going to help you spend less money, because if you have a list of what you need for your meals for the week, I know it sounds silly, but like legit, when I started this, I would just go to the grocery store and I would buy a ridiculous amount of food, and then I would have all kinds of leftovers at the end of the week that I didn't use, and then things would start to go bad. So make a list before you go to the grocery store. I promise it will save you time, it will save you money, and it'll be super helpful. So I'm just going to go over a list of things that I typically buy when I go to the grocery store. This isn't saying you have to buy these things. This is just typical for me. And you may not like the vegetables that I like, but find something that you do like. So for me, for my green containers, I always buy cucumbers. I buy the little snacking cucumbers because those are the ones that I like. I buy bell peppers, whether I buy like the little mini ones or if I buy a whole bell pepper, I always get peppers. I always get spaghetti squash, onions, celery, cauliflower, and then I usually get some type of salad mixture, and I also always buy spinach. And that's typically what I buy for my vegetables. And one thing to know with all of your foods, I'll go into that after. Scratch that. So that's your greens. For reds, things I typically buy are eggs, cottage cheese. I usually get turkey burger and like breakfast turkey sausage, chicken, fish. We also eat a lot of venison and catch our own fish, so those are also healthier alternatives to have on hand. And then I also buy Greek yogurt. So those are my typical reds that I buy. And like I said, you may not like fish, so maybe that's not on your list. But that's typically what I have for my reds. As for my yellows, I usually have old-fashioned oats or steel-cut oats, quinoa, and sweet potatoes. I also really like to get like lavish bread to make pizzas, but whatever you decide for your yellows. What else do I have on here? Some people, depending on which program you're on, some programs you're allowed to have breads, so like an organic whole wheat bread with no additional sugars, or you don't want to have like syrups in your bread. And sweet potatoes and beans are another 2 that I usually throw in for my yellows. As for my purples, I love fruits, so that's one of those things where I have to make a list, because otherwise I'll overbuy on fruits and I can't eat them all, or I shouldn't eat them all because I would love to eat them all. So I usually get some type of bag of frozen fruit to put in either my breakfast yogurt parfaits or to put in my shakes, so just like a fruit blend. But make sure when you're buying your fruit, you look at the ingredients, because some frozen fruit will actually put added sugars in it. So just flip the bag over and just make sure that it's just fruit and no like fruit concentrates or anything that might say that it has sugar in it. I know it's frozen fruit, and you wouldn't think they would do that, but they do get tricky. So check your fruit. So I get frozen fruit. I always get bananas, and I usually get them a little green because I don't like them when they're brown. So I get them green so they'll turn yellow throughout the week. And then for me personally, I usually just get, whatever looks good. Like if it's raspberries or if it's strawberries that are fresh, or apples hold really well. So I usually always like to have apples in my fruit basket, or pears or plums. So really whatever you like for fruit. I also always usually make sure to get tomatoes, just because I like tomatoes. I know it's fruit vegetable, but it's actually a fruit. And like I like to have those on my salad, so I'll usually get like the little cherry tomatoes. Yeah, that's usually what I get for my purples. And then for my blues, I love cheese, so 90% of my blue is just cheese, but you could also get avocados or whatever else is in your healthy fats. But for me, I use my blue for cheese because I love cheese so much. And then your teaspoons. Here's another one where you're most likely not going to have to buy these every week, because the amount of servings in the teaspoons is small, and so your packaging is going to last you months. So coconut oil, I get raw unrefined coconut oil. I like avocado oil. Some people like to use extra virgin olive oil, whatever that may be. Almond milk is actually, in most of the programs, is considered a teaspoon, so I usually get some almond milk, and I get Teddy's peanut butter. Make sure that you're watching your ingredients on your peanut butter, because a lot of the peanut butters that we eat, like Skippy peanut butter or Jif peanut butter or those, if you look at the ingredients on the back, there's hydrogenated vegetable oils in it, there's sugars in it, molasses, honey, there's like all these added things in it. So make sure that you're getting, look at the ingredients and make sure your peanut butter has just peanuts, or peanuts and salt. A little bit of salt isn't bad, but making sure that there's no added sugars into your peanut butter. And I personally like PB2, which is a dehydrated peanut butter, and then they like scoop off, I think it's like 85% of the fat off the top, and so I personally like to get PB2, and I put that in my shakes. So that's what I use for my teaspoons. I also like to make sure that I have some nuts on hand, although, you know, we can't always eat a lot of them. I usually like to make sure that there's almonds on hand and cashews. I really like raw cashews, and pistachios. Those are kind of like my 3 nuts, but whatever you like for nuts, just making sure that, once again, that they are raw, and that they are not like the flavored nuts that have a bunch of chemicals and sugars and salts and things like that added into them. And I think that just about covers it. Yeah, and so when grocery shopping, make your list, and as you've probably heard before, you really most likely don't need to go down through the middle of the aisles. When grocery shopping, you stay on the outskirts of the store. You have your fruits and vegetables, then you usually have your meats, and then you usually have your dairy. All of that processed carby stuff in the middle, you don't really need to go down those aisles. If you have any questions about suggestions for grocery shopping and what to get, send your coach a message or send me a message. I'm happy to help you. And then also, if you do buy stuff extra, one thing that I have learned as doing this, I also get spinach in my greens. I don't know if I put that in there. I always get spinach. Since I've been doing this, one of the things that I do find is I do overbuy. Like, even when I still make a list, I still have things, you know, life happens and maybe I don't make a meal that I planned on doing, and things start to go bad. So just because things are starting to go bad doesn't mean that they have to get wasted. So things that I typically freeze all the time. So any leftover spinach, I actually buy like the big bag of spinach and I throw it right in the freezer to start, because I can't stand slimy spinach. And so if you throw it in the freezer to start, you can take that out and throw it in a stir fry, or throw it in a soup, or throw it in your shake. And if it's frozen, it doesn't matter. So I usually buy those big bags of spinach. I used to get the tub, but price-wise, the bags work just as well. And then also, like, if your peppers or your onions are starting to get soft, you can dice those up, throw them in a sandwich baggie, throw them in the freezer, and then next time you have a recipe that calls for them, whether it be a stir fry or egg cups or whatever it is that you're making, like if you make sausage and onions, you can pull out those leftover peppers and onions from the freezer and throw them in and reuse them. Same thing with fruit. Your fruit starts to go bad, dice it up, throw it in the freezer, and now you can pull that out to throw it in your shake or throw on top of your yogurt parfaits or whatever you want to do with it. So also, if you have ideas about, or you have questions about what to do with certain foods as they are starting to go bad, feel free to send me or your coach a message, because we all know that, you know, we work hard for our money and we don't want our money to go to waste by overbuying groceries, and sometimes that happens, but most of the things you can actually dice up and freeze and then pull out and reuse again. So I think that's it for groceries. Like I said, if you have any questions or concerns or thoughts, send us a message, and yeah, bye.